Good morning, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Martin O'Neill was spotted at a game last night. Has that given us any hint at all to the next Celtic manager? Does it give us any hint that Martin O'Neill will be here for the Cup final in December? The next 2 weeks at Celtic are the biggest 2 weeks that we've had for years when it comes to the club. Currently without a permanent manager. Currently on our way to an AGM, and an AGM where the majority shareholder cannot hide and cannot not answer questions from people in the audience. It's a time that Celtic are at civil war. The fans, there's certain sections of fans at civil war with the club. I mean, are all fans at war with the club? It's a very disheartening. But let's get back to football and I think if Celtic were just to come out and say, look, we're going to keep Martin O'Neill here to January, I think that would get a lot of things to calm down a bit. We do need change at boardroom level. There has to be more. The board have admitted it, but with the AGM coming up, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. The AGM is in just under 2 weeks' time, and it'll be interesting to see the outcome of that. There was a story going around the other day that we spoke about, and it was of a Celtic player being tracked by Leeds. Celtic have come out and basically said that look, he's not for sale, and of course he's not for sale. He's only been at Celtic half a year. Celtic would never sell a player as quick as only been here for half a year, especially somebody like Tenecti when he is such a good player. And he is one of the stars in the squad just now. And you would never sell him halfway through a season, especially when you've got all the players out injured that we do have out, and it's quite a big list. And one thing that I was wanting to talk about this morning, there was a picture that I seen online, and it wasn't that one, it was this one, with obviously the manager and Sean Maloney looking a little bit worried at a game. You see young Colby Donovan behind them with a little bit of a worried look also. But then there's Dyson Maeda sitting in the background with a smile on his face. To me, I still think that the squad is broken. There are a number of players. We know for a fact that Dyson Maeda wanted away at the last transfer window and didn't get his wish. Rio Hatate is another one that's been linked with a move away from Celtic, but no offers came in for the player. You know, I have said, and I don't, as much as the good feeling that we've had over the last, up until the game on Thursday, as much as that feeling can take you so far, let's not deny the facts that there are still big issues within the Celtic squad and the playing staff as the Pope comes into the building. I've seen an interesting comment there. Time to recall where players back from loan. I mean, the players that are out on loan, you can only recall them at the next transfer window. I'm not too sure. You're bound to be able to recall them at any time, can't you? But then again, the players that are on loan are players that a lot of the fans wanted nowhere near the club. And let's face it, they slagged off the players that went out on loan as it's 6 hours and 53 minutes till kick-off. I mean, are we really saying that Odomome, who's hardly done anything in America, Lewis Palmer, who seems to be doing fantastic at his club, Stephen Welsh, people chased Stephen Welsh out the building. Do you know? And now we're saying that they're the answer to the club's shortcomings. They're not. And it would be doing... I mean, I don't know how Stephen Welsh is doing at Motherwell. I've no idea. No idea how Rocky's doing, Norowski's doing at Hanover 96. Allegedly, Palmer's doing good, but they don't see themselves meeting the valuation that Celtic have of them. Adam Montgomery, Livingston, he's out injured. And Odomome, well, he's coming back in December anyway. So there's only a month and a bit to go. But by then, it's all too late because it's fucking... I don't think that calling back... Personally, I don't think that calling these players back is the answer. Stephen Welsh, slated at the club, never getting enough game time. Would he have got even more game time this season? I doubt it. Because Dane Murray's in there. Dane Murray's not been slated like anything. Could you imagine if Welsh was here? The fans would be... Dane Murray's been told by Celtic fans that he's not the answer. So you can't say that the players, and we'll get them on the screen, the ones that are out on loan are really the answer, because if we didn't think that they were good enough the first time round, why do we all of a sudden think that they're going to be fine when it comes to our current situation at the club? I think we'll disagree with that one, Scott, because I don't think that they would make much of a difference. I can understand where you're coming from about squad size and the fact that we're short on players, but then it all comes back down to the board. Everything that's happening at Celtic right now, you know, we can go around in circles and we can blame Brendan Rodgers. We can blame Brendan Rodgers for a lot of the stuff, but we're all going round in circles and everything comes back to the one point, and it's the board. And if they can't see that, there's something far wrong with them. Martin O'Neill keeps on insisting that he's expected not to be here come Monday. Him being at the game last night says otherwise. People say, I spoke to my brother last night, he says that, look, it's just the manager scouting the team. It's not that one, it was this one. Scouting for the team. He'll pass on any information to the new manager. It's quite an old school thing to do, to go and watch other teams. Brendan Rodgers never done it. He relied on stats. And I'm so glad that we've got rid of that narrative from our club. And I hope we stay away from, and I hope we just get back to, you know, a manager and his number two going to watch players in real life, because you get so much more from watching an opposing team in the flesh, because you can see what they're doing off the ball. You can see what positions they're going in off the ball. You can see how they work as a team off the ball. Stats don't tell you that type of thing, really. I mean, they can tell you for a tracking back stats, and they can, you know, there's stats that will tell you as much as you want. But your eyes, your ears, and your nose tell you a lot more than looking at something on a bit of paper or a fucking laptop. That's for sure. And it's the mentality of a player. That's what you cannot get from stats, is the mentality of players. You know, when the going gets tough, stats don't tell you, oh, by the way, they fucking really dug in at this point of the game. And it was good to see Martin O'Neill there last night, but it does beg the question, is he here for a longer period of time? And Owen was out with career-ending problems. Is he? I have no idea. I've never followed a single bit. Hope Shin Yamada proves a point today. Will Shin Yamada even get any game time? Because, well, we're going to go with... I mean, we could do a prediction of the team, but I don't think there's any point because there's not many people out injured. I don't even think Martin O'Neill... He'll wake up at the hotel this morning and it's almost... It's last man standing, isn't it? It's Martin O'Neill. It's what's unbelievable to think is that Martin O'Neill's here at Celtic at a time where he's basically going into the hotel breakfast area this morning and turning around and looking at the players and say, who really wants to play? Because that's what it feels like with the players. Who is up for putting in a shift for 90 minutes and looking at the eyes of every single player? And you'll get the obvious standouts that will be jumping at it, you know, jumping to play. But I think there are a lot of people at the club, top players at the club right now, that are hiding, that are smiling in the background, wanting Celtic not to do fantastically well. hiding behind, oh, I don't speak perfect English, I don't understand you. That's just my thought. Especially when you see that picture there. It's a very telling picture. Picture tells 1,000 words, as they say. Picture tells 1,000 words. So obviously at a point of the game when we weren't doing too well, and yeah, it is an interesting one. But we move on. Looking at the headlines today when it comes to Celtic. Obviously the Green Brigade released more statements last night. The Celtic Trust released more statements. Seems to be a bit of a statement call-off at the moment. And what will be the formation that Celtic will go today, and what will be the team ultimately. We will be live an hour and a half before the game today. I might go live a little bit earlier, maybe an hour and 3/4, because I'm going to go to the pub to watch the game today. I'm not doing a watch along today, unfortunately. It's just not worth my time, being honest. It's like fucking just sick to the teeth of the watch alongs. So I'm going to go to the pub. And watch it. So I might do a half-time thing from the pub. A lot of the Celtic sites, are saying that it's Celtic giving major managerial hint after appearance of Martin O'Neill at the St Mirren game. I don't think so. I'm just seeing. Did Tenecti speak to the media? I didn't think that Tenecti spoke to the media. Martin O'Neill's been talking about Tenecti. So Celtic, the update on the stats for the next Celtic manager, it is looking at Coudson, the Columbus Crew. It could be someone completely different, Celtic. And if it is to be anyway, I mean, if Kieran McKenna, we're going a bit Kieran McKenna here, if he was the number one target for Celtic, why hasn't there been an approach? Why hasn't there been, if it's going to cost us $5 million to get him in, it's not as if we've not got the money in the bank. It's just get the money on the table and say, right, we want him in. You want him in to work with the players over the next fortnight during the international break. So, but then when the people that are away on international break come back, there's a group of players that are already up to speed. We seem to be very, very... I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You've got to really make sure we get the right person in. But if any of these are the right... I mean, Bobo Glint manager, people are saying Bobo Glint manager will leave at the end of the season. Why? I don't believe this nonsense that we're getting peddled by our own... by the media. As we'll wait till the... We didn't wait to the end of the season to get rid of our manager. Do it like that. When Leicester City came in, it's at the door that night. Why can't Celtic act that quick? What is going on? And it all points back to the board. Everything that's going on at Celtic, everything that's going wrong with Celtic right now, all points right back to the board. Rocky's been... has always been good enough. Yeah, he's always been good enough, but he never got a chance under the previous manager. Hope today's Martin's last game and he leaves with his legacy enhanced. Like Martin O'Neill said, look, he's not buying this legacy bullshit. The only manager, and this is Martin O'Neill's own words, the only manager that's got a legacy at Celtic is Jock Stein. He won the big cup. Everyone else is insignificant. He's not going to be bothered about a legacy when he's dead, said Martin O'Neill, because he'll be dead. You won't know about it. You live for the here and now. Martin O'Neill's living for the here and now. He's just hoping to be on Monday morning back in London buying a coffee. An expensive coffee, he said. The managed decline has been horrific. Yeah, it has been. Don't even. It scunners us. I mean, I was the WhatsApp chat yesterday. One of the guys said, it's they're just trying to scunner football. They'd be glad without people like them at games, and the club would be happy if there was no ultras at games at all. The club would be more than happy. The squad's been decimated. The lack of stretching caused these hamstrings issues. I was a gymnast. Never caused me any hamstring injuries. If the loan players want another chance at Celtic, then great. If they don't, sell them. Well, I think that there's the loan players in question is they see themselves as they've had their chance at Celtic and they're not really going to get is a new manager going to come in and say that Stephen Welsh is all of a sudden a fantastic player? I don't think so. I think we all know the limitations of Stephen Welsh. He's been at the club long enough. Louis Palmer, he was too... Can another manager bring him in? He never really had the pace for a Celtic winger. Do you know, he was good in stints, but too ball greedy. Odom Ohm, I have no idea why we signed that guy. He wasn't given a chance. I think he played one game. You got to remember, he was one of the players that come in under Brendan Rodgers' very first transfer window, where although he signed them off, he never knew a thing about the players that were brought in that summer. Rocky was another one. Adam Montgomery coming through the youth system. He's unlucky that he's got an injury at Livingston. Will he make it at Celtic? It's looking not likely now, unless Martin O'Neill was to stay at the club and get Adam Montgomery back and give him a real chance. But we've seen far too many younger players from the team over the last come through the system that have went on to be not okay. They've not been good enough, but when you leave Celtic, there's a big issue that players have. When you leave Celtic, the training methods, everything is way up here. You're talking about top class stuff. And then when you move away from Celtic, the training is not as intense. You're still getting trained as a professional football player, but there isn't this must win every single game mentality. There's a mentality that you get into through training at Celtic, and a mindset, and you can lose that. You see so many players that come into Celtic that don't have the winning mentality, the mindset. They must win every single game. I mean, there's players that have come in this summer or last summer, and you could see that they don't have it. They might have been good players in the league that they played in, but it's a different kettle of fish when you've got to come in and you must win every single game. And that's what's missing. And it's how do we then bring in... I mean, if we're going to bring in a foreign manager, you've got to bring in a foreign manager that has to quickly get up to that kind of mentality. There's not many managers out there that need to win every single game. They know they can get away with winning 95%, 90% of their games over a season, and that will get them over the line. It's a different kettle of fish coming to Scotland, isn't it? Totally different kettle of fish. The one was finished, unfortunately, for the young lad, not being taken about by the Celtic Post. That's interesting. Today is Remembering Sunday. I remember last Sunday very well, says the Pope. Is it Remembering Sunday? I didn't even know. I'm just going to jump through these. Every player is better now, Brendan Rodgers' way. How can you blame the board? They've done a fantastic job. He pissed away 77 million on players. How can anyone else say he wasn't backed or the board are to blame? I think that there's a combination, but when you look at the bigger picture of everything that's going on right now, the managerial situation, is it acceptable that we've known that the manager was going to leave at some point. Be it mid-season, be it the end of the season. I think that we can both agree on that. We've known for some time that there was disparity between the board and the old manager, and that there was it didn't look like he was going to stay here after the summer. So shouldn't it have been prudent of the incumbents board members to have started looking at potential new managers at that point? When the talks fall down, when the talks collapse or whatever, when there's disagreement in the summer, as a board, you should turn around after the meeting and say, right, we have to start looking at new candidates. You have to have a plan B. Celtic don't have a plan B. If Brendan Rodgers didn't have a plan B on the pitch, the board don't have a plan B in the boardroom. And that's why they both need held accountable. So saying that you can't blame the board, you have to blame the board. They're in a position. If you run a company and you know that there's a small possibility that someone may be leaving the company, their contract's coming to an end. If you're on a fixed contract, happened all the time in the rigs, North Sea industry. You're on a fixed term contract to a job, but the rig still goes on. They're like, this guy, they know the chat. The guy's not going to sign a new contract. He's going off to another rig where he's going to get more money. They start putting the feelers out for the next guy to come in well before, so that there's a smooth transition. Celtic never do smooth transitions, except when it's getting a manager out. We're never on the front foot, and that's why you've got to blame the board. Everything that's going wrong at the club just now comes back to the board. Board not getting players in quick enough. Yeah, you could say that, look, Brendan Rodgers pissed up an unbelievable amount of money, which he did. But, as a collective, they all need to take responsibility. There's been talk about Odom being finished for a couple of weeks now. Well, he'll just run down his contract then, and Celtic will just release him, won't they? If that's the case. What happened to us the other night was an absolute embarrassment. And a lot of people saying it's Liam's birthday. I can see it being Casper, Donovan, Trusty Scales, Marcelo, Callum, Benji, Rio, Forrest, Kenny, Tenecti. I wouldn't start Rio Hatate. I think that Dyson and Rio Hatate are part of the problem at our club right now. It's just my thought on it. I do think that there's no smoke without fire, and be it whether the players that we're talking about never really got on with Brendan Rodgers, but I think when players, you've got to remember that Rio Hatate for 2 summers in a row spoke openly to the press back in his home country about playing at another club at a higher level. Daiz Maeda told the club, I want to leave. I want to go and play. I want to try at a higher level. And then when you look at pictures of players smirking in the background, it doesn't stand too well with me that hiding their faces. One's hiding his face, and then Dyson's just not giving a fuck. Sitting there with a wee grin on his face. He hasn't smiled for weeks. But Colby Donovan, well, there's a guy that knows what the club's about. Ange Postecoglou once said, "Don't get too attached to your stars, because your stars aren't Celtic fans. Your stars, the modern day football star, has no allegiance to Celtic. No allegiance at all. That's gone. The last lot of foreign stars to have any long-term allegiance to Celtic were players that played in the 9-in-a-row team with Scott Brown. Ever since Ange Postecoglou came in, it's been journeymen. People that will be happy to have Celtic on their CV, happy to take the wage, but it was all part of their journey. No affiliation whatsoever. None at all. None at all. And that's a sad indictment of the type of player that we've brought into the club over the last couple of years. That picture. Fucker's never smiled for weeks. And Rio Hatate hiding his face. It reminds me of old fucking Bazgate. When they done that to the media in a Scotland game. But anyway, we move on because the less we talk about it, the better. Right, let's jump back into the comments section. Tell me what players today have an allegiance to any club these days. Players that come through the system. Players that we've chased away from Celtic. Players that have come out and said, we didn't leave Celtic due to money. We left Celtic due to the fact that there was no serious pathway into the first team. When you're now getting ex-players, youth players coming out and saying that we didn't leave Celtic because of money. All this stuff that's out there that we left because of money. They left because there was no serious pathway into the first team. You're not going to stick around. If you're a young player at Celtic and Celtic is the place that you want to be, you're not going to stick around as a younger player. Do you know? And you have no chance of getting a first team game. It's never going to happen, is it? That's why they leave. We need Bernardo and McCowan in these games. I think so. I'm buying him for 3 million. Don't play him. Doesn't make sense. We need to remember that the possibility that the club have broken promises to Dyson. I'd be fucked off too if I was in it. But we know this. We know this is fact. Chilpo. We know that. Do you know? We know that this has happened. It's the same. It's the exact same that the club knew that Kyogo Furiashi wanted away. You know, but that is what it is. They should have had their chance, but they haven't. Anyway, let's jump back into some Celtic headlines this morning. I tell you one thing, Chris Sutton has been very vocal in the fact that he hopes that Martin O'Neill leaves after this game tonight. I mean, it won't. I mean, Martin O'Neill won't walk out on us. Do you know Martin O'Neill? It's one thing about Martin. He'll stay here until he gets the phone call and say, "Look, we've got someone else in." But it doesn't look like it's happening any soon. Martin O'Neill was a Celtic legend for what he did during my time as a player. Said Chris Sutton. I owe him plenty for myself for signing me. I wouldn't have experienced the whole thing or have enjoyed such a wonderful career. Chris Sutton's probably made more money out of his Celtic gigs at the weekend than he did as a player in the modern time. Just saying. It's a big job to get things back on track against a European team. The defeat against Midtjylland summed it up. I didn't even want to look at the league. I mean, I've never even looked at the... Maybe I should. Where did we end up on the night in the Europa League? I've kind of just hidden away from it. Some things that you just don't want to be reminded about. What, are we 27th or something? '27th in the league. That's not good reading, like. 2 defeats, 1 win, 1 draw. 4 games in. Realistic chances of qualifying? Nipwa. I mean, when you look at some of the teams that are in the... I mean, Celtic are terrible this year. Absolutely terrible. What a depressing morning, isn't it? Anyway, let's think about the team today. Because it's not all that bad. Better than 36. Yeah, it is better than 36, isn't it? I mean, I would rather be in our position than their position. Let's be perfectly honest. Mono followed the club for the best part of 50 years. Celtic now has become part of... has become like the UK in proper meltdown. Proper Punch and Judy show. That's an interesting one, Billy. I'm going to get that one on the screen. It is a Punch and Judy show, Celtic, right now, isn't it? And you can't really see where it's going to stop. I mean, a new manager is going to have to come in. Europe is just a distraction this year because of the mess the board have left us in. I don't think it's a distraction. I mean, any manager that comes to Celtic, go back to when Ange came in. Ange was sold the club on trying to achieve things in Europe. That's why Ange came to Celtic. Because he's thinking, yep, do you know, yeah, you could win the league in Scotland. But the real thing is trying to make inroads in Europe. And that's where we've failed over the last 10 years. Let's not lie about it. I mean, we've brought in Brendan Rodgers the first time round to make us better in Europe. And it didn't really work. I mean, the last manager to have a good run in Europe was Neil Lennon. But then brought in Ange on the promise of trying to make us better in Europe. But then he quickly found out that the board didn't meet his expectations of level of player that we should be bringing in to try and make us better in Europe. You can blame all the managers that we've had over the years, but unless you have people at the club that have got the same ambition, and it all goes, and we're only a couple of weeks now from the AGM, and you could think back to AGMs going back 20 years when Peter Lawwell stood up and said, look, our objective is to be the dominant football team in Scotland, and Europe's a bonus. If that's what we've become, we'll just tell the fans that then, so we can have our expectation levels just brought down a peg or two. But that's not what Celtic was for me. It never was. New manager would do jack shit with the squad is woeful. Unfortunately, board is to blame. It's jinky. Managers nowadays are no difference to the players. They look to come to Celtic as a stepping stone to the Premier League. Yep. But there is one that's currently a manager down in England that I think would look at Celtic as a 3 to 5 year plan. We need to bring in a manager that will look at Celtic as a project, a 3 to 5 year project. The board need to get on side with that. The fans need to get on side with that. And that's the thing. You had quotes like fill out for big jock in the shirt. We need to know you train on Monday to Friday and you get Saturday off to play football. This season is a write-off in Europe, and if we can't claw back the 9 points, but I think we can I think we can still claw it back. We could still win the league. There's no doubt about it. You know, unless we're this many points behind in March, that's when you start going, fair play to Hearts. But as it stands just now, there's a lot of football to play. And I still think that Celtic can claw it back and do the exact same to Hearts that we did in the 1980s. That'd be fantastic. But anyway, No English Championship managers, please. What's the difference between the English Championship and the Danish League or the Swedish League? That's a serious question. What's the difference between the English Championship and Swedish League, Norwegian League, Danish League? Apart from the fact that they play in Europe. Standard of the player, price tag of the player is probably cheaper in those countries than it is in the Championship. It's just a thought, Michael. It's just a thought. A draw for Hearts today and take it to 7 points with the game in hand. We need to concentrate on toppling Hearts. Yep, we do that. Our board dismantles as soon as we start clicking. Yeah, they do. We'll be on top for Christmas Day. Ooh. We might have to play 6 qualifying games in Champions League this year. Yeah, the Scottish... Any hope now. And what we also have to take in consideration with that, any hope now of us getting into the Champions League will affect the budgets going forward. Player budget, player wages budget. You can forget spending over 35 to 40 grand wages on players. Strap your seatbelts in. Get in your bucket seat. Get a 4-point belt and buckle in, because over the next few years, whether you like it or not, we're going down like that when it comes to Europe. And that's just fact. Selling for profit, not spending, not caring about advancing the team, only financial aspect of the club that you can really blame the board for making the business successful. Even the fans aren't happy. David, see the success that the club are riding on just now. It's going to be a way down here the next 2 years, because we're not going to get into the Champions League. And it doesn't matter who comes in as manager. You know, I don't think that we'll be back in the Champions League for 2 or 3 years now. If the Europa's not our level, how the hell do we expect to try and get into the Champions League if we can't do a thing in the Europa? Thanks for the super chat, Jasper. We need a new manager in the Super Bowl for January window. Yeah, we do. I've said that for a while, and I think that it's a must. Do you know, you have to get a squad in now so that he can analyse the squad. You have to get a manager in now so he can analyse the squad. Of course we can claw it back. We still have to play Hearts 3 times. Coulson get a cut of profit from youth sales at Bodo because youth beginnings, because he brings through the youth development. There was quite a few managers get that done. English only know the checkbook. I'd like to have Coulson. Remember Aberdeen being 10 points behind us in January and they won the league. Okay, a long time. Does he speak English? Coulson, of course he does. All the Northern Europeans speak English. Probably speak better English than like me and you, being perfectly honest. All Northern European countries speak English because they can't speak to each other in their own languages, because nobody knows Danish, nobody knows Dutch, nobody wants to speak Dutch. Norwegian, add that into it and it's all skål, skål, skål. Every time I fucking hear them in a bar, skål, I just think back to the 1980s in Scottish football. Skål, fucking shut up you. Oy. What's new? Midtjylland was the recent side. I'd get him in. Their manager. I'd get their manager in. Anytime we've looked decent in Europe, Lowell dismantles the side. They've never allowed us to put any longer on team build. They sell. The issue is, and the problem is they sell Celtic to players we sell Celtic to players as a stepping stone. Skull, is that still about as a beer? I've no idea, Danny. But that's, rather than say cheers, that's what the Norwegians say. Skull, 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 skull. Fucking, it's funny as hell. Yeah, Celtic players are sold on the club as an idea. Look, Nico Kuhn said it in public. I was told that I'd be here 2 years and they would sell me on. Yeah, Skull won the World Cup. The Skull Cup, Motherwell won that with, who was the Celtic players? There was 2 players in that Motherwell team. Or was it 1? It was definitely 1. There was a Celtic player that won the Skull Cup with Motherwell. Who was it? Tell me in the Skull Super Lager still around. Tammac. It's a Super Lager. Need it. Right, tell me in the comments who won the Skull Cup with Motherwell and then went on to be a Celtic player. Still waiting on a comment coming through. Everyone's now Googling it. Lambo? Nope. No, it wasn't Lambo. Before Lambo. Skull Cup was way before Paul Lambert. Joe Miller? Nope. Tom Boyd, there we go. Tammy Boyd. T1 gets it. Tam Boyd. It's Tommy Boyd. Tom Boyd. T1 wins it. Give us a break, it's Sunday morning. Call yourself Celtic fads. Yeah, it was Tom Boyd. Tom Boyd back in the day. And it was after that, he came to Celtic. The 1991 Scottish Cup. Scottish Call Cup. Tom Boyd. God, I've got a memory like a... Oof. O'Donnell won the cup as well and then came to Celtic. But the one, the Skull Cup, was Tom Boyd. Tom Boyd. I don't know what it was called when Phil O'Donnell won it. Were they two in the same team? They might have been in the same team. I might be in the same team. But anyway, right, that's quiz for the morning. Just to shake things up a bit. Right, we will be going live, maybe about an hour and 3/4 before the game today. Well, that gives us plenty of time to talk about the team. And before I bugger off to the pub to watch the game, or will I end up just going, bugger it, do a watch along? Because the last watch along, there was about 2,000 folk watched it. Anyway, Skull sponsored the League Cup. It was a League Cup. There you go, it was a League Cup. Right, that's me done and dusted for this morning. I shall catch you just a few hours' time as we get prepared for the game today. If you're off to Celtic Park today, have a fantastic time. Mind, remember, no buying any drinks or food or shite. Or, in fact, if you do, and if there are people buying, send me a video on Twitter or on the Celtic, the One Celtic Fans View Facebook page. Because just for my own interest, I just want to see, because I'm obviously not there, I'd like to see how many people are queued up to buy hamburgers and burgers and overpriced tiny little pizzas that you get, that you could bite with one bit at Celtic Park. And you're like, Jesus, Domino's, you're taking the fucking piss now, aren't you? Yes, Davy Cooper played for Motherwell also. He died when he was at Motherwell, doesn't he? Anyway, we move on from that. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.